The story of a Negro millionaire and a Negro beggar, inspired by Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Lucas was a man whose name shook the city's tallest towers. $1 billion fortune, glittering penthouse, and a life where everything glittered, except the truth inside his chest. By day, glass windows framed a skyline full of shining ambition. By night, his circle, flawless dresses, fake laughs, and champagne bubbles whirled around him like ghosts. Yet the room felt empty. His chest tightened with a dull ache, a silence louder than the jazz music playing in the background. He was rich beyond measure, but alone beyond repair. Tonight, the city wore its finest. The air crackled with wealth's sharp scent, perfume, expensive suits, and whispered names. The charity gala sparkled, a show of perfect smiles and shallow toasts. Lucas scanned the room with tired eyes as laughter spilled like broken glass. Then something caught his attention, a sharp contrast in the crowd. A woman sitting quietly in a corner, her hands folded around a worn leather bag. Her skin deep and rich like the earth, eyes fierce and tired, full of stories the glitter couldn't hide. Anna, she was everything his world wasn't, strong but fragile, rough but real. A homeless woman fighting every day to feed her daughter, to keep her safe from the cold streets that bit and bruised. Lucas found himself drawn into her orbit, a magnetic pull that blurred the borders between their worlds. Under the pale lights and roaring city below, they talked. Anna's voice was steady but cracked with pain. She told him about nights spent curled on cold benches, about the men who haunted her past, about her daughter's laughter that made her brave. Her story hit Lucas like a punch, a gut-wrenching mix of survival and broken hope. His hands trembled, jaw tight. For the first time, but darkness lurked nearby. In the shadows, a figure watched, hot eyes burning with fury. A violent ex-boyfriend, a ghost from Anna's past, who refused to let her go. His presence was a storm rumbling, ready to crash down on any chance of peace Anna dared to imagine. Lucas's mind raced. As he learned more, he stumbled on startling truths, the ties between Anna's suffering and his family's fortune. Secrets that threatened to shatter his whole life. The whispered words of betrayal stirred a storm inside him. Should he reach out, tear down the walls of privilege, or retreat into the shimmering cage he'd built? Suddenly, his phone buzzed. An unknown number. When Lucas answered, a familiar voice, cold, sharp, dangerous. The past wasn't done. The call revealed a family secret, one that tangled Anna's story with his own in ways he'd never imagined. Lucas stared out as the city lights blurred. Two worlds, side by side, ready to clash. His heart pounded hard. The question hung heavy. How far would he go? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Lucas stared out the window, the city lights pulsing like a heartbeat. His mind raced. Could he reach out to Anna? Should he step into her world? The silent chaos inside him was suddenly interrupted by a scream, sharp and piercing, echoing through the gala. He spun around. Eyes widened, faces turned. The room froze. In a blur, he spotted Anna. Her chair overturned, her expression twisted in shock. Lucas moved. Adrenalina esparco en su cala hincha de él. "Ana!" he shouted. But she didn't hear him. Her gaze was fixed on the entrance where a figure stormed in, wild-eyed and furious. The ghost from her past. The dark shadow of her violent ex-boyfriend, Marcus. He was an embodiment of chaos, and his presence filled the air with a chilling dread. "You thought you could escape?" He laughed, a sound devoid of joy, filled with venom. The laughter felt like nails on a chalkboard, scraping against Lucas's skin. Anna stood, her hand shaking but resolute. "Leave me alone, Marcus! Get away from her!" Lucas barked, his heart pounding. A protective instinct surged within him. Chaos erupted. Guests gasped. A woman whispered, "Call security!" and a man shouted for calm. The atmosphere turned electric, charged with fear and tension. Marcus stepped closer, his fists clenched. "You think this rich boy can save you? You think he cares?" He scoffed, eyes blazing with rage. Lucas's chest tightened, his heart drumming louder. "Stop it!" Lucas shouted, stepping toward Anna, who stood firm despite her fear. There was a strength in her that he admired, a fire that illuminated the dark corners of the room. "You're not my life anymore," Anna declared, voice steady, but her eyes betrayed her. "Life? Don't pretend you're better than me. You're nothing without me," Marcus sneered, lips curling into a menacing grin. And then it happened. A figure leaned against the wall, observing all of this. It was a woman, looking out of place in her lavish gown, not part of the gala's glimmers. A flicker of recognition crossed Anna's face. Lucas turned, suspicion rising. "All this time, you didn't even know," the woman spoke, quiet and chilling. Suddenly, Anna's face drained of color. "What do you mean?" "The truth is always sharper than you think." The woman's words hung in the air like fog, thick and suffocating. Lucas felt a wave of dizziness creeping in. "What truth?" Each word slipped out of his mouth, unsure, wary. There was an unsteady undertow tugging at them all. "You're tied to all of this, Lucas. Your family's wealth is built on what was stolen from her." Gasps echoed. "Ha ha 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 ha!" Lucas felt the room swirl, shadows creeping closer. "What are you talking about?" As the girl continued, he could see Anna's eyes widening in horror, realization crashing over her like a tidal wave. "What? No, this can't be true." "I'd suggest you talk to your family," the enigmatic woman said, her voice low, urgent, "before it all comes crashing down." His world spun. Could it really be? He glanced toward Anna, who trembled now, confusion and fear mingling on her face, trapped between two worlds that never promised hope. And then, the sound of sirens echoed through the night, piercing the silence outside. A storm brewed, ready to sweep away everything they knew. His heart raced again, pounding harder than before. As Marcus snickered in the chaos, Lucas's thoughts spiraled. Where did loyalty lie? Who was telling the truth? In that moment, he felt the dim lights of wealth flicker, as shadows encroached closer, bringing with them secrets that could bury them both. The night shifted. questions lingering like heavy fog. How deep would this rabbit hole go? Lucas stood at the precipice, his pulse quickening as he fought to grasp what he had thought was real. Lucas stared into the darkness beyond the glass. Two worlds ready to clash. The city throbbed with life, but his heart felt heavier. Instant. He tried to collect his thoughts, but the buzzing on his phone pulled him from that chaos. The voice on the other end echoed through him like thunder, shaking loose the reality he'd built. "Lucas, you don't know everything," the caller said, each word slicing through him. "Your mother, she had a past, and it's tangled up with Anna." Stunned, Lucas dropped his phone. The screen cracked against the marble floor, but he barely noticed. His mind raced. His perfect life, his perfect family. In one breath, it was crumbling. Whispers of betrayal wrapped around him like smoke. He turned to Anna, who was now looking at him, confusion twisting her features. She didn't need to hear this. Did she even know? The urge to protect her surged within him. "What's wrong?" she asked, voice steady, but he could see the cracking mask of calm. "Anna, please, But before he could explain, the doors of the gala flew open. A loud crash echoed as the wind swept in, bringing with it a wild figure, tall, disheveled, and with eyes that blazed like fire. It was the ghost from Anna's past, the violent ex-boyfriend. The air turned colder, thickening with tension. "Get away from her!" His voice was a low growl, echoing through the hall. Gasps rippled across the crowd, silencing the jazz music. Lucas felteai somajunde pipolonel, apenas desesperando, yuyando. Instintamente le acercaba Ana, haciendo protección detrás de él. La respuesta para la partida se intentó. No era como se esperaba esta noche. Ana, sente. Se le huía el corazón, adrenalina sacudiéndose el entorno, llorando encantado. Un grito súbito pasó, que corta el caos como un cuchillo. Laudo, desperado, la gente se rompió en movimiento. Gente se empujó y controlaba de molestias. And there it was, a sleek, dark figure appeared from the chaos, moving fast, a gun in hand. Panic surged. "Get down!" Lucas shouted, instinct taking over. He grabbed Anna's arm, pulling her low as chaos erupted around them. Shouting, scrambling, champagne glasses shattered, and fear flooded the room like a wave crashing against a stone shore. In a flash, everything changed. Gunfire rang out, loud and brutal, echoing against gilded walls. Lucas felt a sharp pain in his shoulder, a burning sear that made him gasp. "Anna!" he shouted, but his voice lost itself in the storm of panic. He dropped to the ground, confusion blurring his thoughts. The familiar face of his past, his mother's secrets, and Anna's struggles all twisted into one horrifying truth. Was this really happening? As he lay on the floor, ghostly white and fragile, he caught a glimpse of Anna. She knelt beside him, horror etched in her face, but her eyes were fierce. "Lucas!" she screamed, and her voice pulled at something deep inside him. He wanted to reach for her, wanted to tell her it would be okay. But the world faded around him, the stars dimming to darkness, and confusion took root. The last thing he remembered, before slipping into oblivion was not the pain, but the question. Who was he now, with everything collapsing around him? And as the sirens wailed outside, charging through the chaos, everyone at the gala began to realize this was just the start of a story that would change everything, leaving them questioning their bonds and their truths. Lucas's eyes fluttered open, a heaviness gripping his chest. Pain shot through his shoulder like lightning. His limbs felt heavy, weighed down by confusion and pure dread. The echoes of chaos, the screams, the gunfire, danced in the back of his mind. Like a haunting melody. "Anna!" he gasped, the name slipping through his lips like a desperate prayer. His voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper, amid the chaos. His gaze darted around the room, searching. There she was, kneeling beside him, panic etched on her face. Tears streamed down her cheeks, glistening like glass. "Lucas, stay with me," she begged, her hands shaking as she clutched his face. But before he could respond, the doors burst open again, and a group of officers stormed in, weapons drawn, shouting commands. "Get down! Everybody down!" Lucas felt himself being pulled to the side as men in uniforms swept through the chaos. He wanted to protect Anna, to push her away from the danger, but the pain clouded his senses, twisting everything into a sickening blur. Suddenly, from the corner of the room, he noticed the enigmatic woman, still watching, expression unfathomable. Her lips moved, barely forming words. It was like she knew something, something he had yet to grasp. "Anna!" Lucas cried out, again, but his voice was muffled by the ringing in his ears. He tried to sit up, but a sharp pain pierced him deeper. Then the world shifted. A scream sliced through the air, not from Anna or the commotion, but from one of the officers, a man crumpling to the floor, blood pooling around him. "What the hell?" Lucas blinked, astonished, but before he could process, Marcus appeared again, looming larger in the chaos. The ghost of Anna's past, eyes burning with fury. "You think you can protect her? You're nothing," he shouted. His words a crude blade cutting through the air. But then something happened that sent a rippling shock through the room. The strange woman stepped forward, eyes locked on Marcus. In one swift motion, she pulled back her sleeve, revealing a tattoo, a dark symbol etched into her skin. The crowd froze. Whispers erupted like a sudden gust of wind. "What is that?" someone gasped, dropping their drink. "Anna, he's your father." The words came tumbling out like a rolling boulder, loud enough to drown out the chaos. The silence that followed was deafening. Lucas's heart raced. The room felt like it had been wrapped in ice. Anna's face turned ashen. No, that's not possible," she stammered, shaking her head, eyes wide with disbelief and horror. "Yes, it is," the woman pressed, her voice filled with urgency. "Your mother, she tried to shield you from the truth, but it's time. It's time you know." Lucas's heart pounded. Their worlds were shattering before him. Everything he thought he understood, everything he believed, dismantled in an instant. "What?" Anna's voice cracked, her breath hitching. "Your whole life has been a lie." The woman's voice broke through the tension, each word slicing through the air like a blade. "Anastagir back, he aquí che mundo poniendo a Lucas, llorando por el pecho. Llores mentirosa." Pero la mujer se avisó acercando su expresión mediante el recuerdo. Es tiempo para aprender a tu pasado. Lucas se sintió una muerdía de emociones entrañaba. Enojo, deseo, miedo. Cada cardio lograba más alto que el último. Una incontida propia. Las sirenas lloraban, blending into del caos del momento. Hacia los oficiales continuaban cargando órdenes. Lucas vio a Ana colapsar. Confusión mezclaba con enojo. ¿Qué lo es diciendo? No, this can't be real. But the room hung heavy with truth. Every gaze turned toward them, whispers filling the air like smoke. The chaotic scene lost its grip on Lucas. Questions surged in his mind, fierce and urgent. What did this mean for them? For their lives? Would they ever be free from the webs of their past? In that moment, Lucas knew everything had changed. What did this shocking twist mean for their future? The question hung in the air, taut like a drawn bowstring. Just waiting to snap, Lucas stared out over the shimmering cityscape. Bull. His heart hammered in his chest. The twin worlds he straddled felt like ticking bombs set to explode. The call had rattled him. But it wasn't just the weight of family secrets that haunted him. It was Anna. Her face, her strength, her fragility, etching itself into his mind. But before he could gather his thoughts, the air surged with energy. Suddenly, shouts erupted across the room. The clatter of glasses shattered the moment. Anna's head jerked up. Lucas's heart sank as he followed her gaze. A commotion swelled at the entrance. The sharp crack of a glass breaking sliced through the air. A figure stormed in, tall and wild-eyed, a tempest made flesh. It was the ghost of her past, the violent ex-boyfriend who had been watching from the shadows, and now he had arrived. His face twisted in rage, the fire in his eyes seeking Anna. Panic surged through the people around them. Gasps echoed. Silk dresses swayed with quick steps away from the chaos. Lucas's instincts screamed for action. "Anna!" he shouted, pushing through the crowd as the ex charged toward her. Fists clenched, face contorted with fury. "No!" Anna's voice rang out, thick with both fear and defiance. She stood rooted, a contradictory force of vulnerability and refusal to back down. "Get away from me!" The room danced with anxiety. Lucas squeezed through the throng, heart racing. He felt something chilling. His wealth couldn't shield him from this storm. He reached Anna just as the figure lunged, a horrifying blur. The crowd tensed, clinging together like a bundle of nerves. Then, in a moment that felt like forever, Anna threw her leather bag to the side, causing a cascade of objects to spill out. Papers, a small metal cross, and a tattered photograph. It fluttered to the ground, landing face up. Lucas knelt, his breath catching in his throat. The image was of Anna and a young girl, her daughter, beaming, caught in a moment of pure joy. The violent figure hesitated, eyes locking onto the photograph. The room fell silent, heavy dread hanging like smoke. "You don't deserve her," he hissed, a deep tremor of pain in his voice. The audience buzzed with confusion and whispered. Lucas pressed, adrenaline coursing through him. He felt fear constricting his throat. Then words poured out like an avalanche, tumbling down the walls he had carefully built. "Who are you to say that?" "Because I'm her father." The words sliced through the silent crowd with an edge of devastation. Shock, gasps, all eyes locked on the ex-boyfriend, now morphed into some twisted connection of fate. Lucas staggered back, everything around him blurring, the world tilted on its axis. Each background murmur crumbled into nothing. Ana's face drained de color. In the crackling atmosphere, Lucas's thoughts spiraled. The truth hit harder than any punch. "Father!" He hardly recognized the man standing before him, yet Anna's eyes mirrored shades of loss and betrayal. Dread coiled in his stomach. He felt the weight of proximity, two worlds colliding at a drastic speed. Inside him, the question pulsed. What would this revelation mean for Anna and for them? The gala buzzed, whispers swirling among the guests. Judgment hanging thick in the air. A truth so dark, so intimate, looming like the shadows themselves. In that moment, Lucas realized that everything he thought he understood, his life, Anna's, their painful connections, was about to unfold in ways he hadn't dreamed. Just as more chaos ensued, an icy realization gripped him. Would he dare to step into the potential fallout, or would he hide behind the wealth and privilege he had come to know? He glanced at Anna, her expression clouded with raw emotion, her past suddenly quaking at the surface. Would she look to him for safety now, or would he become just another betrayal? The air thickened with uncertainty, leaving Lucas breathless. The tension held the crowd captive like deer before headlights. Something irreversible was about to happen. Everything was on the brink, and Lucas felt that he was teetering at the edge. What comes next? That was the question pounding in his mind, leaving him hanging on the precipice of shock and anticipation. Lucas stared out over the city, heart racing as his phone shook in his hand. The familiar voice on the other end sent shivers down his spine, threading each word with threat and revelation. He felt sweat pooling at the base of his neck, the warmth turn. "Lucas!" The voice sliced through the darkness. "You think you're so far removed from it all. But your family's money runs deep, and so do the lies. Anna is tangled in a web of secrets that go back decades." He knew they were playing with fire, but fear gripped him. He glanced at Anna, her quiet strength now illuminated by the dance of lights. Her head was turned toward the window, and it felt like she could sense the storm bubbling inside him. "Listen closely. Your father was more than just a businessman. The very foundation of your wealth is built on blood. Anna, she might not be who you think she is." "What do you mean?" Lucas shot back, voice trembling. The caller chuckled, a sound devoid of warmth. "You're too naive, Lucas. Your father and Anna's mother were involved in something nasty, something that changed lives forever. You're standing on the grave of your family's sins." The words hit like a freight train, sucking the air from his lungs. Anna was a beautiful soul, a beacon of hope amidst the shadows. Yet here it was, the bomb that could dismantle everything. His world shattered with each revelation. Suddenly, the music faded, and the chatter around the gala dimmed into the background. Lucas's attention sharpened. A conmoción erupte near la entrada. "Get away from her!" A frantic voice pierced the air. Lucas turned sharply. Anna's eyes widened, fear coursing through her veins. A figure pushed through the crowd. A man, wild-eyed, with a face twisted in rage. It was her ex-boyfriend. He barreled toward Anna, each heavy step cracking the tension in the room that hung thick like smoke. "You left me! You can't run!" he shouted. hands clenched into fists. Lucas's instintos kicked in. He rushed toward Anna. He couldn't let him hurt her. Not now. Not ever. "Anna, step back!" he yelled, positioning himself in front of her. The crowd parted, gasps surfacing like bubbles. High-pitched whispers filled the air. "Who is he? What's happening?" Anna clutched his arm, eyes wide, breath quickening. Her past materialized like a specter, ready to claim her. The man laughed, dark eyes narrowing. "You think you can protect her? She'll never escape me." Then came the shocking blow, a sudden thrust. A knife glinted under the lights, aimed straight at Lucas. Everything froze. The air, the noise, even Anna's breath stopped. Yet in that heartbeat of chaos, Lucas moved. He pushed Anna behind him. The steel found its mark, slicing through flesh with a sickening twist. A gasp from the crowd. "Lucas!" Anna screamed. A sound that shattered him, echoed through the hall like a death knell. He sank, knees buckling, pain lighting fire through his body. Warmth flooded his shirt, a crimson stain blooming like a dark flower. Was it real? Was this really happening? Through the haze of shock, he heard Anna weeping, felt her hands shaking against him. But pain drowned everything else. The chaotic laughter, the blinding lights, the swirling dreams of wealth. Everything faded. He looked into her eyes, desperate, searching for answers. "Anna?" he whispered, but only the unfathomable dark replied. The world spun, and darkness closed in. He didn't know what was true anymore, who he'd been, or who Anna was meant to be. Yet he felt the weight of their tangled stories, pulling them both down into oblivion. A question hanging thick in the air. What secrets had unduly bled into this night? Lucas stared out through the city lights, the buzzing call still echoing in his ear. Two worlds collided inside him, each fighting for dominance. Just as he began to connect the dots, the atmosphere shifted. The vibrant sounds of the gala faded, replaced by a chill that slithered up his spine. Suddenly, a sharp scream pierced through the clinking glasses and laughter. Lucas spun around, heart racing. People parted like waves as chaos erupted. There, in the corner where Anna had been sitting, a figure emerged. Her ex-boyfriend, wild-eyed and furious. His hands were clenched, fists trembling with rage. "Anna!" he shouted, voice slashing through the crowd. Lucas's blood ran cold. He instinctively moved towards Anna, but before he could reach her, the man lunged. The room held its breath, a collective gasp echoing around them. Anna's eyes widened in fear, but there was something else there too. Defiance. She stood clutching her bag, ready to fight, ready to protect. "Get away from me!" she yelled, her voice breaking the tension like glass shattering. In that moment, something within Lucas ignited. The walls of privilege that once surrounded him crumbled. He pushed forward, desperate to reach Anna, only to be yanked back by a strong hand on his arm. It was his friend, David, his expression a mix of concern and fear. "No, Lucas, stay back! He's dangerous!" David warned, eyes wide. But Lucas couldn't listen. His heart drummed in his ears as Anna took a step back, her fear palpable. He felt the weight of a city's worth of privilege pressing down on him, and it made him sick. He knew he had to do something. Then, out of nowhere, a loud crash tore through the hall. A chandelier, heavy with crystal, shattered onto the floor, igniting panic. Guests screamed, darting for the exits. The lights flickered wildly, throwing shadows that danced like specters. In the chaos, Anna stumbled, and the man seized the opportunity, lunging toward her with intent. Lucas felt the very ground beneath him rip away. Time slowed. He leapt forward, adrenaline coursing, reaching for Anna. But it wasn't just her safety on his mind. It was the mingling of their fates that clawed at him. In the midst of the chaos, he heard a shout that made his blood turn to ice. "Your mother knew everything," the man roared at Anna, voice trembling with venom. It echoed, slicing through the noise, each word striking like a dagger. "What?" Lucas replied, heartbeat pounding furiously. His mind raced. His mother? What did this have to do with her? Panic surged within him, twisting his stomach into knots. Then, as the room quivered with fear and uncertainty, Anna's expression shifted. Pain turned to shock. Tears brimmed in her eyes as she seemed to absorb the weight of his words. "Lucas, I didn't know," she whispered, barely audible over the chaos. Before Lucas could process, the figure charged again, crashing into Anna, knocking her bag from her grasp. It spilled open, and the contents scattered across the floor. A photo fluttered out, twisting in the air as all eyes turned to it. A picture, a woman, unmistakably familiar, smiled back at them from years past. Lucas took a step back, breath hitched. It was his mother. His whole world flipped inside out. Anna glanced at him, confusion and dread mingling in her eyes. The truth hung heavy, thick like smoke in the air, leaving Lucas to grapple with an unspeakable reality. How far would he go? The question was now heavier than ever, set against the backdrop of shattered glass, scattered secrets, and a note forever changed. The photo fluttered from Anna's bag like a trapped bird. It landed face up, revealing a younger version of her mother, bright-eyed and hopeful, standing beside his own, a laugh caught between them like a time capsule. Shock rippled through the crowd, gasps bouncing off the walls. Lucas stumbled, heart pounding against his ribs. What were the odds? The ex-boyfriend's rage twisted the air tighter. Anna's past rushed forward like a wave, threatening to drown them both. And then the man, Marcus, seized the moment, his fury igniting the room. "Doesn't it all make sense now?" Marcus sneered, eyes dancing with malice. "You're living on borrowed time, Anna. This life, this gala, it's all a facade." Anna swayed, words hanging in the air like smoke. "No, it can't be." But before she could gather herself, chaos erupted anew. Lucas felt the rising tide of panic as people surged backward, and he sensed something shift. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught a flicker of movement, a flash of silver, before a sharp crack sounded. A gunshot! The world froze. Time twisted, stretching into a never-ending second as people screamed. Lucas's breath caught in his throat. He turned to Anna, eyes wide. Her hand flew to her mouth, shock displacing any semblance of strength. Then silence followed, thick and suffocating. Lucas dared to move closer, instincts firing like an electric current. Where was the threat? Who had fired? The terror was palpable, seeping into every corner of the gala as confusion erupted. Then another loud crack reverberated through the hall, shattering the momentary silence. Panic surged as everyone dove for cover. The air swirled with desperate cries and the scent of fear. Lucas could barely think. Adrenalina pulsante truisu. Encontró a Ana juntada cuidada a la pared, ojos blancos invisibles. «Ana», le gritó, alulatando. El momento de la Inosa, ya con su carga, la asentó a vista. En huido, el protector se le proponía, porque Marcuso, al tesar, se agregó, «You don't entiendes, do you?» All of this? It's just the beginning. And then his expression turned cold, as if sensing something drastic. The crowd grew eerily quiet, a heavy stillness hovering over them like a thick blanket. Just then, a figure emerged from the shadows, a woman draped in elegant attire, eyes enigmatic, grounding like an anchor. It was the woman from before, the one whose words had rumbled beneath the surface. "Wait!" she called, voice slicing through the tension. "You have to hear this!" But before she could finish, Marcus reached into his jacket, pulling out something glinting in the soft light. A knife. Lucas's heart dropped as the true horror flooded in. "Enough with the games! I've waited too long!" he shouted, eyes wild. Lucas's instincts screamed. He lunged forward, but everything happened in a blur. The woman stepped forward, and in an unexpected moment of resolve, she revealed her arm. A tattoo. A symbol Lucas had only seen in whispers, speaking of betrayal and blood. "Stop!" she ordered, voice unyielding. "Marcus, you don't have to do this. You're fighting ghosts. You're chained by your own family's past." Gasps echoed in the crowd. Lucas felt the ground shift beneath him, each word resonating. The stakes soared. The knife shook slightly in Marcus's grip as those eyes, once so filled with rage, now flickered with uncertainty. "What are you saying?" he stammered, momentarily losing his grip on the moment. In that instant, Anna's voice rose above the noise, shaky but determined. "What do you mean? What ghosts?" The revelation hung heavy, thickening the air. Her daughter's laughter flashed through Lucas's mind, the hope they had shared, now wrapped in shadow. He stepped forward, reaching out to Anna, wanting her to understand what was happening, what this meant. But just as he reached her, a siren wail shrieked in the distance, the sound of approaching authority. Tension rippling as everyone braced for what would come next. Marcus hesitated, the knife wavering slightly. "This isn't over!" he spat. Chaos swirling around them. Lucas's heart raced as he turned back to Anna, slipping his hand into hers, squeezing tightly. They were caught in a storm of secret histories, a tangled web where every thread pulled taut with desperation. What lay ahead felt darker than the weight of the night. And just as the sirens flared, a deafening crash erupted from above. Another chandelier, and everything fell into darkness. The world spun violently, the chandelier falling like a meteor, plunging them into darkness. Lucas shielded Anna instinctively, heart hammering, mind racing. The room erupted in chaos. Screams, stumbling bodies, confusion. A living wave crashing against a shore of fear. In that chaos, the crowd darted in every direction, mere shadows moving against the backdrop of Olympic blue walls and crystal chandeliers. Lucas breathed heavily, pulse quickening. "Anna, we need to go!" he shouted, but his words got lost in the tumult. The sirens outside wailed louder now, a chorus of emergency piercing through the air, amplifying the terror. Just as he turned, pain sliced through him, sharp and brutal. He stumbled, glancing down at the crimson smear blooming on his shirt. It seemed to pulse, a heartbeat in the chaos. "Lucas!" But not yet. Anna's voice was a frantic whisper, but it grounded him nonetheless. He locked eyes with her and felt sheer desperation, an unbearable weight pushing down. "Stay with me," he murmured, gripping her hand tighter, as another scream pierced the haze. His heart thudded, fury mingled with fear. He couldn't let anyone else get hurt, not Anna. Suddenly, a figure pushed through the crowd. A strong force, unrelenting. It was Marcus, the storm driving straight toward them. The knife gleaming dangerously. Anger blurred his features. "This ends tonight," he spat, aiming for Anna. Something strange flickered as Lucas moved protectively, but then there was noise, a sound like thunder, a heavy weight crashing. The panic tightened its grip, but even amidst it all, a shot rang out, deafening. Time slowed, everything blurred, mouths opening in horror, eyes wide in disbelief. Then it happened. The woman in the flowing gown, the one who had issued the chilling prophecy, crumpled to the floor. A sharp gasp followed. "Mother!" Anna screamed, eyes wide. The ground beneath them jolted as the meaning of the moment hit with the force of a tidal wave. Lucas felt the air leave his lungs. "Your mother?" he barely whispered, the revelation stunning him. And from the shadows, a figure stepped forward. Another woman, familiar in some way that made him shiver. "Anna, I didn't want you to find out like this," she said, eyes wet with sorrow. "But the truth is deeper than any of us knows." A collective gasp erupted from the crowd, murmurs undulating through the air like a bad omen. The room fell silent, every gaze trained on them. Questions hung thick, suffocating. "Get away from her!" Marcus shouted, but even he seemed stilled by the chaos the woman's words had unleashed. "Your life, dear Anna, it's not his fault." It was never his fault. There are layers of betrayal wrapped in both our families. We are connected, bound by blood and greed. The woman's face twisted with regret, sorrow pooling in her gaze. Suddenly, everything shifted again. Lucas glanced at Anna, confusion bubbling on her features. "I don't understand," she gasped, taking a step back. "What are you saying?" The truth rang clear and loud as clarity struck Lucas. He was caught in the eye of a storm, witnessing secrets unravel like threads in a tapestry. "Wait," he said, voice rising. You saying our families are tied by more than money? By blood?" "Deeper," the woman replied, her voice low, a well of sorrow. "Deeper than you can imagine." And then, just as the weight of that revelation sank in, the lights flickered back on. Crystal shards glinted menacingly on the ground, broken pieces around them. Murmurs swelled like a tide, judgment thinly veiled in the crowd's gaze. Lucas looked at Anna, her breath quickening, eyes brimming with fear and understanding. The connection they had shared, the love blossoming between them, everything shifted, suddenly uncertain. Was it real? Or just another deception woven into their tangled history? He wanted to reach for her, hold her close, shield her from the truths being unearthed. But as he moved, Marcus lunged again, desperation fueling his rage. The knife glistened, a dark promise of danger. And then it happened. Everything was turned on its head as Anna screamed, not out of fear, but anger. "No!" she shouted, stepping forward. The knife fell from Marcus's hand, clattering to the floor, forgotten. "Enough!" she cried, voice trembling with raw power. As silence enveloped the room once more, Lucas felt the ground shift anew. A new chapter unfolded, a story of heartbreak, tangled lives, and a truth so shocking it shattered their world entirely. What would happen next? Every heart in the room held its breath, waiting for the storm that was bound to come. The air was thick with tension, the weight of truth pressing down on them all. Anna stood firm, unwavering, her voice steady despite the storm swirling around her. "I won't be a pawn any longer," she declared, locking eyes with Marcus. Falter onde la intensidad de su voz. People choflearon, vísperas eruptan como gligos en el corazón de la gala. Lucas sepió la energía, cada ojo ya queda vuelto al drama desarrollándose del parte. Este tiempo que sigues con Marcus, inmisemillable, lleva mi vida prácticamente fuera del ansia. No le va a vivir en miedo. A silence cloaked the room, thick and heavy. Lucas's heart raced, fear intertwining with pride at Anna's bravery. He could see the flicker of doubt cross Marcus's face. The truth was a fierce weapon, and Anna wielded it like a sword. "You think you can just walk away from this? You have no idea what you're leaving behind," Marcus shouted, wild-eyed, desperation edging into his tone. "I know enough," Anna retorted, voice resonating with strength. Unbreakable. "I know that I can choose how my story goes from here." Suddenly, the tension exploded into action. A shout cut through the air as a police officer, having finally pushed through the chaos, rushed to Marcus. "Drop the weapon!" In that instant, everything crashed together. Lucas dove toward Anna, pulling her back as officers surrounded Marcus. He felt the warmth of her hand slipping into his, grounding him. The knife clattered to the ground, forgotten as Marcus was restrained. The crowd erupted in a cacophony of emotions. Relief, fear, uncertainty. In the aftermath, Lucas took a breath, feeling Anna's pulse through their joined hands. "Is it over?" he whispered, gaze searching hers. "No," she replied softly, "but we're strong enough to face whatever comes next." As they locked eyes, the flickering lights above felt less like a prison and more like a beacon. Together, they stepped away from the chaos, hand in hand, breathing life into dreams they thought lost forever. In the frenzy, the mysterious woman who had revealed Anna's truth approached cautiously. "You will need to know everything," she said, her voice calm. "It's tied to both our families, but it's not the end. It's a new beginning." Lucas exchanged glances with Anna, uncertainty mingling with hope. Could this really be a chance to rewrite their fate? "Just know," the woman continued, There are forces at play that we don't yet understand. The crowd around them hushed as they absorbed her words. Lucas felt the air around him buzz with the potential of their future. It was uncertain, but it was theirs to seize. As the sirens faded into the distance, Lucas and Anna took their first steps away from the gala. And with each stride, the shadows of their past began to lift. They were not alone. They had each other. And in that moment, they embraced the vast unknown with open hearts. Whatever awaited them was a path they would walk together. Now, as you hang on to this thrilling conclusion, you have to subscribe immediately so you don't miss any more exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this jaw-dropping ending. And don't wait even a second longer to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see what just happened. Only true fans understand the importance of this. Let's keep this story alive together.